Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining in today. I won't answer any of the individual questions until I'll let a few minutes go by, just to make sure that everybody who's asked a question is online. I know some of you are watching it later anyway. So thank you all for joining. I was going to say this morning. It's this morning for me. It's this morning for Australia. It's the evening for the UK, and it's different times of the day in the US. And we've got people here from the US, Canada, the United Kingdom, Australia, and no one from New Zealand except myself, Kiwis. So thank you again for all your questions. I thought I'd start just with a general comment, which is how lovely it's been getting all these responses. Some of them very passionate, and I understand that. I'll do my best to answer all the questions. Some of them cover the same topic. A lot of you quite naturally are asking why Jester's story has ended at this point. I might leave the Jester question to a little bit further along, because some of the other questions that have come in actually answer some of the background to that. So the first one, let me go to the first one. Oh, and some of the questions, by the way, are not to do with Jane and the Dragon. So I know some of you are much more interested in television writing and how to develop a show and how to produce a show. So I might start with that first. I've got several questions from you, Grace. I'll try to answer them all. The process of developing a show, it's different for different sectors of the market. And I think, in my view, most shows that are successful shows are usually developed from a passion project by a single person. Sometimes if somebody falls in love with a book, or as a book from their childhood, and then when they start their career in television, they work their way through a variety of roles, but they've always got in their mind that one day, if they become a development producer, they will try to get the rights to that book. So it usually starts with acquiring an option for the rights, then working with the estate or the owner of those rights to make sure that they do it justice, and that everybody's comfortable with it. And that can take a long time. It can take years for that dialogue to take place before an estate or the children of the writer or the writer themselves feels comfortable with the process. I was very fortunate years ago to know Roald Dahl. We had the same publisher when I used to live in London. And Roald Dahl used to say to us all us other very young writers that were in the publishers there, be very wary of TV and film producers, and make sure that if you do give them the rights to your books, that you have a lot of controls written into the process. So I guess there's no easy way to answer your question, Grace. If you're developing something from scratch, that's your own project, and you're not in the industry itself, which was the case for me with Jane and the Dragon. I'd been approached by several TV producers over the years, or my publisher had, wanting the rights to Jane and the Dragon. And that little note from Roald Dahl was always bouncing around inside my head. So I raised the money to go to various international festivals. MIP TV in Cannes in the south of France was one of the biggest back then when I started this journey 20 or so years ago. So I did develop it from scratch on my own initially, and then raised enough interest from Weta Workshop and Nirvana in Canada for them to start to develop a development agreement as we put this together. But what was key for me was to remain in control of the project from day one, in terms of the creative and who Jane is, and the Nirvana team and the director and everybody who worked on the show were very gracious. I think they understood that it needed to have a passionate showrunner who was prepared to, if I could use one of the expressions that's been used over the years to me, is people who are prepared to bleed for the art from their eyeballs for their show. A lot of late nights, a lot of work, a lot of fighting for the things that you want to preserve, the things that matter to you and of value to you. Which leads to one of my other questions. I'll come back to some of your other questions later if there's time, Grace. But there's two related questions. There's one here from Bob. Hi, Bob. Lovely to hear from you. Yours is, over the course of several stories, how do you mature a character while keeping their core personality? So that's, and I want to go, and that adds to several other questions, one from Grace and others that have come in that are similar. Is how far ahead did I know the story? Grace asked, was I making Dragon Blade up kind of one chapter at a time? No, obviously the detail I was filling out as I went, but no, I've known the story of Dragon Blade as part of the overall life of Jane from, the picture book right through to when she dies, quite late in her life. She doesn't die early. So to those questions, yes, I think very often one of the problems that you see in television series and in book series is that a book has been written as a one-off, and it doesn't have any view as to what the bigger timeline is, and therefore when a book becomes successful, developing into a TV series becomes a whole series of reimaginations and revaluations about the show. So in the case of Jane and the Dragon, I'll use that as an example because then it answers some of the questions that have come in around character development and around Dragon. And it also, there's quite a few questions have come in around, the final